Thanks for stopping by and watching another episode of Behind the Camera. A special treat today for me, we're going to talk to Philip Benz. Philip is a videographer, works in Greenville, North Carolina, and works all around the country. We're going to talk to him about how he started his business and find out some special techniques. Also, thanks to Rock Springs for allowing me to be here today and conduct this interview. Rock Springs is a beautiful place to work. We've worked here for many years, a great place for your next venue or wedding. So stay tuned. In just a few moments, we'll be right back and talk to Philip.
Heading out on our own with our hope in the clouds, and we're starting to see that we're onto something. Feel it coming, we'll keep running, nothing in our way, and we got no reason to wait. Let the journey take you where it wants to. We'll continue to find our way through anything we face. We got what it takes. Here we go. All we need is an open road and a chance to see a never-ending world that's beautiful. Here we go, with the sunlight on our skin. It's a brand new day, it's ours to take, and we will let it in. This is where the adventure begins. Every step, writing stories that seek to be read, taking hold of the moment as we discover every color filled with wonder. Now we finally see we got everything we need. Here we go. All we need is an open road and a chance to see a never-ending world that's beautiful. Begins. Heading out on our own with our hope in the clouds. We're starting to see that we're onto something. Feel it coming now. Here we go. All we need is an open road and a chance to see a never-ending world that's beautiful. Here we go, with the sunlight.
I've wanted to talk to you for a long time. I mean, we had a great time working together at a wedding. And really what I noticed so much, and especially in this business that I think is lacking a lot of, is professionalism. This business, the wedding business we're talking about, is gotten so infiltrated with new people that we've been into it long enough. We've seen the changes that have come up. And but beside that, tell me how you started. How did you start in the video business?
So long story short, I started filming skateboarding. So before I was sponsored, and the only way, this is before YouTube, so the only way that we could get videos was to send our videos back to California where the sponsors were at, and that's kind of how they kept up with the progress. So that's how I picked up a camera. Had no intentions of ever making money at it or anything like that. And then when I was in college, my sophomore year, I needed to pay rent. So I went on Craigslist. There was a Craigslist ad for filming a wedding for $250. And I got a classmate of mine, and we drove all the way out to Oriental, North Carolina. Wow. I still remember the couple, Kelly and Kelly. And yep, ever since then, I've been doing it for 10 years.
Just going for it. That's awesome. Because the video guy, I mean, I've been in the wedding business for so long, and the video guy has always been, I guess, second fiddle. But it's changing so much. The video has gotten so strong on social media, and I think people are putting more emphasis on video now, as much so, if not more so, than still photography. How was that relationship when you started in the business with the other photographers? How did you deal with that?
I started at the sweet time where social media was still new, but it's been around for a little bit. So once I started releasing videos on social media, it was like, oh wow, like this is way different than your typical like wedding videographer.
Yeah.
And the dynamic was always that the photographer was always ahead of the videographer. But over the years, it's really changed to where we're on the same level, but then I also have couples that book me first before the photographer. But even when I approach the wedding day, the way I look at it is me and the photographer are best friends that day. I don't care if they're lower price or higher price than I am. That's how I approach the situation.
Well, you both have the same thing at heart. You're both going for the same final result. What's the best for the bride and groom?
And we're doing the same job.
Right.
Except I'm doing video and they're doing a still. I'm shooting 24 frames a second and they're shooting 1 frame a second. So.
And that's the thing about video that's so fascinating to me. As much as I've gotten into it now, which has been like a whole nother world for me, is that I can tell the story normally in one image. You set up the image, set the background, the foreground. But now when you're telling that same story, you're shooting this angle, this angle, this angle. You're telling it in so many different views. And I like what you put on your About page for Facebook, that it's just not a video and editing. You're creating a mood, you're creating a feeling for them to get into, which makes a difference. And besides the mood and video that you have, what struck me more than anything else when I first saw your work was your slow motion. If I had to put it in words, it's like butter. It's just the slow motion.
Some people love it, some people hate it.
I love it. I just love it that you actually have that slow motion, the way it flows, and it just brings you in. It really does. And is that something you just fell into? Is that something that you really kind of someone showed you that some time ago?
So it was the Planet Earth documentaries when they first came out on Discovery Channel.
Oh wow.
That was like the first true use of 4K. Slow motion, and slow motion has always been a really cool look. Like even the skateboarding, like if you do a really, really cool trick, you can slow it down and then speed it back up, like speed ramp it.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, well this is a moment that we want to slow down in time, a wedding day. So that's when I started to utilize the slow motion. I don't think I used slow motion until the first 2 years of me actually doing it. I did it once and fell in love with it, and I think I overuse it, but I use it in a way to where I still make fast cuts to where it doesn't drag on.
Yeah, it really has, especially in the beginning stages when you go, what I do like a lot is when you're using the audio of someone talking. It might be a speech, but then you're carrying that message through on some of the beginning shots, and it really ties it together. And people don't realize what is involved behind the scenes, the video aspect, the editing aspect of it. That's the situation where everything, unfortunately, is fast food. Boom, 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 boom. When can I see my pictures? When's it coming back next? But the process we have to go through, not only from a photographer point of view, going through 3,000 to 4,000 images to get down to the best 700 or 500.
I couldn't imagine.
But you're sitting there editing moving images, it's incredible to keep up with that. Because now going into a wedding, do you have a preconceived idea? I know for me, I'm like, okay, I'm behind the church watching the service. The altar returns is real important because they give you little time in this part of the world to do that. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take one picture over here. I'm taking another image over here. So how do you go approach a wedding? Do you go into it with a preconceived idea of what you're going to shoot, what plan you're going to do?
So every wedding, no matter the religion or denomination or anything like that, is essentially the same. So the bride and groom get ready in the morning. There's details like the dress, the rings, invitation suite, all that stuff. Then you have the ceremony, and then after that we party, we have fun, and then they leave. So that's all structured the same. So the way that I go about it is I don't really go into it with a set plan. I just kind of know now what I need to capture. So I always start with the details, and then the makeup and the hair, and then I'll slip over to the groomsmen for a little bit because I'm a solo videographer. When you watch my work, a lot of people think that I have multiple people there.
Yeah, I was watching the other day. You had like 3 or 4 camera angles up front and the back. I'm thinking he must be hiring some people now. But I remember last time we worked together it was just you.
And a lot of people are just like, that's crazy. You can't shoot a wedding, at a high quality solo. But as long as you just breathe and you think it through and you just kind of plan 10 steps ahead, it's fine.
So I've done weddings for years myself, and now people are they're asking for a second or a third photographer. And some of the people that I've seen doing photography where they've had 2 photographers, I'll see both of them in the same place. I'm thinking, why are you standing there? You're here, you should be a different angle. Go somewhere else and photograph over there.
There's 2 people just standing in the middle of the
same
aisle.
location, in the middle of the aisle. I'm thinking, okay, it's a different camera perspective, a different lens, but maybe because you have 2 photographers doesn't mean you have to be in the same place at the same time. So it really has changed over the years. And I think really wedding photography, I know you do, and also you're doing very much a lot of commercial videography. You had an incredible job that I saw you did here in town. for the police department.
Yes.
That was sweet. Tell me, how did that come about?
So we shot that back in 2018, and Greenville Police Department, they've been one of my clients now for, I want to say, 5 or 6 years. My old professor at ECU, they were actually his client, and then he moved back to LA, and he pretty much gifted me them, and that's kind of where that relationship started. And it was probably about 4 years into doing projects for them, and they said, we want to go ahead and do a project that we want to do the whole community policing thing and this and that, show our love for the community, but we also want to show our toys and, show the younger demographic who we want to come into Greenville. So that's kind of where that video came about. We wanted something that was upbeat, intense, and that was another one.
It was intense. It was nice.
That was another one where it was solo.
Really?
I hired 2 actors for it, a friend I grew up with, and then an actress that. Yeah.
Because the rig that you have, that rig that you're working with is so cool.
Yeah, gimbal.
Yeah.
Gimbal, Steadicam, whatever you want to call it.
Because you're working toward commercial, and you mentioned to me prior to this that you wanted to push toward more of a commercial level, is going toward.
When I was younger.
Yeah.
When we first worked together, I think I had that in mind. But now I'm to the point where I really enjoy my wedding clients. I love the story I'm able to tell, and even though I said that every wedding is essentially the same, every single wedding has a different story.
Right, it does.
So whether the father of the bride says something that's super emotional or just extremely funny, whether the officiant is close with the couple or just hired for the day, every single wedding is completely different, and the story is always different too.
And because the wedding market is a little different, because you have to be, as you grow into this business, as I have over the years, there's certain parts of the business that you can grow out of. And weddings are kind of like that, because the younger, I can always say that when I was at my prime, so to speak, doing weddings, I was probably 10 years maybe, or 15 years older than the brides. You had a connection right there, is what you were doing. But now, when I guess at my age, when grandmom's winking at me and she looks better to me than the bride does, it's time for me to get out. So.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, well, I finally turned 30. I'm not too old yet, but I finally have started to work with couples that are now 21.
Right,
I remember I would go to these weddings, and it was just like, okay, we're the same age and this and that. Do they look at me as I'm a professional now? But now it's just like,
Yeah, you need that. You need a little bit of that too. It makes a world of difference to have that confidence and knowing what's going on. So it really is the business. The wedding business itself is one thing that I know. You have children. And it's tough being gone on the weekends and doing like that. It's really tough. And one thing that I did years ago, I was probably at your age level, the kids would enjoy this. Every time I'd come back from a wedding, I made sure I brought cake home with me.
Yes.
So, and I always shot the cake, the hands, the kids doing their thing like that. So there's little things like that knowing that you're gone and you just have to put that time in. Unfortunately, weddings aren't during the weekdays like we wish they would be. But
and the really cool thing about weddings too, when you're talking about bringing some of the cake home, almost all of my couples are always just like, take some flowers home to your wife, take some cakes, take some cookies home to your kids. So you're working with people, it's supposed to be the happiest day of their life.
Yeah.
So everyone for the most part is not too stressed out. Obviously they're nervous, some of them are nervous, but you're working with people who are probably the happiest they're gonna be for a very long time.
And it's a great business that we're in, to work around people like that are so upbeat and everything. One item that I love that I saw you promoted on social media was, I know in video you have your phone to use, the computer to use, or you hook it to the TV, but if somebody wants to carry it with them, you've got that booklet. It opens up. It's like a little video book. That's so cool. Is that something you just started working with? Is that a product that you just started with?
So I saw something on Facebook. They're called video albums.
Yeah.
Video books, video albums. I call them either or.
Yeah.
But a couple years ago, I saw someone on Facebook post it, and it was the coolest thing I ever saw, because it literally just looks like a photo album.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's actually textured too, like little faux leather out back. And when you open it up, there's a glass LCD screen on the inside.
Wow.
So I ended up getting with a company that unfortunately went under during the pandemic, and now I go through another company. So I deliver one of those with every single one of my wedding films. And then, they're super popular.
Yeah, that makes a world of difference. They can carry that with them.
It's a keepsake.
Yeah.
We live in this, and I love technology and this and that, but I have friends in this industry that will tell you straight up that I hate to change.
Yeah.
So I don't like the fact that everything is digital now.
Yeah.
So here's a USB.
Yeah.
Hope you don't lose it. So I like the fact that I can deliver a book that can sit on their mantle. It has their face on it, and then when the friends and family come over, they can open the cover up and they think they're going to look at pictures, but it's their video.
That's the worst thing for me, is trying to get used to that digital process of where some photographers are given a disc. See you bye.
Yeah.
Every year we probably do 4 or 5 albums from other people who bring the discs to us. Hey, can you make an album for me? I don't know what to do with this thing. Well, you can't exactly frame that disc and put it on the wall. So it's a different process.
I still believe in a tangible product.
Right,
Like
right.
the stuff that you post on your social media where you're actually going to the client's house
Yeah.
and like putting the frame on the wall, that is extremely important. It's important that they're able to look back on that day and not just try to remember where they put the USB drive or the disc, but actually know like, hey, that right there contains everything from my wedding.
And the digital process is so incredibly hard to deal with, because I've had people bring a disc to me once, and they probably had Easter, Christmas, Halloween, they had all these images on there that they tried to do something with, and they lost them. And the backup process is what people don't do. And that's why in our industry we call this the lost image generation.
I went through that last year.
Yeah, that's right.
I had a hard drive, my first one in 10 years crashed.
Oh, God.
Don't want to scare anyone out there that's watching this, but first one in 10 years, it crashed. My 2-year-old at the time, he bumped my hard drive just barely, and it was enough just to kill it.
Your heart just went to the floor.
It did. It did.
It's terrible.
$4,000 later, I recovered it all.
Oh,
and,
God.
Yep. So
That's all of a sudden you start thinking, back up.
But see, the whole digital thing too now is one. You mentioned this earlier in the very beginning of the interview, where there's a lot of people that are in this industry now, and the reason why is because one, the equipment is so much affordable now.
Right.
I'm sure when you first started out,
Right, there was a wall between the professional and the amateur, because we were shooting medium format cameras, and they were shooting 35mm cameras. So you looked professional. You had large cameras. Everything was hanging off the camera. So there was a defined difference.
Yeah, and the big thing that I'm seeing now is that people don't want to, or newcomers to the industry don't want to take the time to learn the reason why your settings have to be double your frame rate, and stuff like that. You know, there's a sense of motion blur. So, you know, you can definitely tell when someone's starting out, yes, they have the best of the best camera, but their technique is off.
Right.
So that's where slow motion is overly utilized right now. I shoot 60 frames slow motion.
Yeah.
But people want to do 120 frames slow motion because a bigger number, they think it's going to be better.
Right.
It looks not good.
And you're offsetting that in your editing process, I imagine,
Yes.
too. Well, yeah, and what you're using. Because the one difference too that I've noticed, that someone contacts me about a wedding, if I can't do the wedding for one reason or another, I feel kind of an obligation to tell them, you know, this is what you should look for if you're going to try to find a photographer. I try to tell them it's not a matter of sometimes the quality of that photographer. Usually the biggest issue is, does that photographer fit into the family? Because people don't realize how much influence we have on the day, the flow of the day, on how it goes from point A to point B. We can totally screw the day up if we're not blending with the family, if we're not being professional in our ways, and that's usually the biggest problem.
The two biggest things I tell people that are just starting out in this industry is you have to be a people person, or you have to learn how to be a people person, and you cannot go in there as I'm the best at what I do and have a big head.
Sure,
Because you have to go in there knowing that you are literally shooting this for them that day. You're going to have to work with 25 other vendors that day. So it's not all about you. It's about the entire process of the day.
Well, sometimes I've come across some young people in the business that I just feel obligated to give them some information. I want to help, I want to share. And I kind of get shut down sometimes, like, you know, who's this guy trying to tell me what to do? So, and just trying to give some
This boomer.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Let me help you, please. You know, sometimes I'll be sitting there and attending a wedding is hard for me. I attended one recently in New Jersey for a friend of ours, and trying to sit there and watch what was going on, and I could just see through the camera what they're saying.
You're watching all behind the scenes
Oh
stuff.
yeah, all behind the scenes. Man, I can do that. So it's really fun. But that's the part that's ingrained in your whole system after doing it for so many years, that you wind up doing that. But also, now how about the skateboarding? Are you still keeping that going?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't do it competitively anymore. I haven't done it competitively in God knows how long. But I still try to keep up with it as much as I can. It's one of those things where, you know, now I've had a business for X amount of years. I have a family that relies on me, so if I break an ankle, it's not going to be good.
Right.
So now I really only do stuff that I'm not learning anything new.
Yeah.
I'm just doing stuff that I know I can do.
Yes, when you get to a certain age, I remember skiing probably in my mid-30s thinking, okay, I got bills to pay,
Yeah.
things are happening here, I can't do like
Yeah.
what I used to do.
And it's funny, I mean, I'll still launch myself a good
Yeah.
4 or 5 feet on an 8-foot quarter pipe, so I'm 12 feet in the air. That's totally fine. But I mean, as long as I know how to do it, and
Yeah.
I'm not like trying to reinvent the wheel and learn something new,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it.
Now, where's the video taking you from here on in? Where are you going to go from here with it? What's your sights?
So I keep on telling myself every year for the past 4 years that I need to expand, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to expand. I make a plan for it, but my biggest thing, like I was telling you earlier, is I don't want to jeopardize the quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
sure.
you know, at some point I'm going to need to expand, but I want to make sure that my quality is always at utmost importance to my weddings, but also the commercial work.
Right.
Which is not only me shooting, but it's also me planning. It's also me being the people person and being involved with the shoot, and then the post-production process as well. The whole goal that I have right now is to really just keep on learning. I'm not done learning yet.
Oh,
and
if
I
you're
don't
not
think I
learning,
ever
you're not
will be.
growing. Actually, you just keep doing it all the way. That's
Yeah.
I still want to sit in the front row.
Yeah,
watching
yeah.
the
I'm
program,
not done
so-
learning. I want to keep on trying to make the best product that I can possibly make while also learning and doing new techniques.
Sure,
And that's really what I want to
And
do.
that's really the base of it too. As far as if you're not learning, you're idle.
I also want to go into the education side of things too.
Wow, that's nice.
You know, showing new shooters that are coming into the videography industry, whether it be commercial or weddings, that you don't have to listen to like these Facebook gurus and these toxic Facebook pages and
Yeah.
this and that. Not knocking Facebook or anything of those groups, but
Well, there's a lot of misinformation on there.
they can be very helpful, but there's a lot of egos up there.
Right, right.
And, you know, learning from someone that doesn't have a big head and is not just like, oh, I make $10,000 and
Yeah,
I've only been
yeah.
doing this for 3 years.
Yeah, it's
Good luck.
yeah. But some people have a knack for actually, I guess, teaching and promoting it that way. And unfortunately, a lot of people get sucked into that whole routine.
Well, I'm sure just like you've learned a lot of things over the years that you wish you may have not done,
Right.
but you learned from that mistake, and
Sure.
now you have the knowledge to be like, hey, don't do this.
It's not only popular in the Greenville market, but you've also done so much around the country.
Yeah.
That's incredible to be able to have that much reach, to be able to have people take you where they're going to go.
One thing I've realized is that I'm not actually that popular in the Greenville market. I'm popular, I think, just sporadically here and there, but there's not, like, you would think that since I live here in Greenville
Sure.
and I started the business in Greenville, at one point I was really popular in Greenville, and it was funny, there was only 3 of us at the time that were really big into videography. It was me, Will Green, and Jeremy Caton.
Yeah.
It was Jeremy Caton. It was only us 3 for the longest time. And then prices all came down on equipment,
yeah.
and then every college kid
Everybody jumped in.
was
Yeah.
now a wedding videographer. So ever since then, but the thing I like to do is the majority of my couples, they come to North Carolina because we're in a big destination spot.
Sure.
So that's what kind of gets me to the different spots
Well,
in the country.
it's the same old thing. My business has been in Tarboro for so many years, but a small percentage of our wedding business was in Tarboro.
Yeah.
It's the old adage is you can't be a hero in your own backyard.
And it's
You
super
gotta be outside.
gratifying when someone hires you and then you fly out to
Oh, sure.
Las Vegas or New York,
Oh, yeah.
and it's just like, they flew me all the way here because they like my work.
And think of all those people they passed up.
Yeah.
That they brought you from that because, and I think that has a lot to do not only with the quality of your work, but also the professionalism that you have. That makes a big difference because there's nothing more rewarding than when you finish your wedding and someone is coming up to you, oh, you did a great job, we thank you for everything, and they haven't seen anything yet. And they're just thanking you for the process you went through and everything you did.
I make it a point at the end of the night, and it drives my wife crazy because I always get home like 2 hours later than I should. I make it a point at the end of every wedding to shake the parents of the bride and groom's hands,
yeah.
Congratulate them, because it's not only about their sons or daughters or anything like that, it's also about them too.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So I make it a point to do that. So I mean, it's about being professional, but at the same time, people person.
You have to, and I always like to say goodbye. That's
Yeah.
it. You just can't walk. All of a sudden, you're not because okay, I'm time till 10 o'clock. I'm supposed to leave. I got to go. But I don't know how many times I've stayed 2 hours more than I should have.
And for people just starting out that are watching this, I mean, I wasn't like this in high school.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't look at you
Yeah.
if I was talking to you. And this is just something that if you're working in a people industry like this,
Yeah.
If you want to stay in it, you have to eventually learn it.
You got to, yeah. You got to be a people person.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you just got to connect. You're trying to connect connect that person on the other side of the camera. And I know that you're probably as uncomfortable as I am because we're behind the camera, now we're in front of the camera.
Yeah,
so.
right. Yeah, I'm used to being back there.
Yeah, I'd rather be back there. So I'm the same way, so it makes a big difference. But this has been awesome. I know we're going to talk again. And
oh, for sure.
You have a project you're going to put me into, so I'm looking forward to that. And right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a portrait of you.
Cool.
I'm going to set it up and do some things. Maybe we'll inside, outside, and we'll see how we can put something together. And we'll kind of show everybody how it's done behind the scenes, and hopefully they'll enjoy it.
We'll have some fun.
Yeah, man, I've enjoyed this moment together, the time we've spent talking. And Philip Benz, we'll talk to him more, and we'll see a whole lot more of this guy, probably on the national, international scene, maybe.
We'll find out.
Yeah, man, good deal. All right.
I appreciate it, man.
All right, let's get to work.
Let's do it.
We started off the session. I have a 3-light setup. Umbrella light is kind of filling the shadows. I have a soft box down close, and I have a light in the background separating him from the background because the background went a little bit dark. I wanted to show the largeness of the venue. The pose on the right, I love that hand position, but I got a little more casual with the hand in the pocket. I thought that was a better pose. And after doing that, I grabbed another camera, kind of came in close to him. This particular pose is great because if he wants to use it for a business card, to drop in some wording, it's a great pose to work with by putting him on the side third of the image. Gives him a little bit more space to kind of work from that aspect. We did the same kind of look by having him hold a different type of equipment. You can see that backlight off to his right. It really does help separate. They call it a kicker light or a backlight. It helps to separate the subject from the background. The background is more of a kind of a wedding venue getting ready to start, and it kind of gave him that kind of venue look. And also we had a chance to go ahead and change positions after this. That worked out really well. But before we change positions, we're a couple of geeks, so we have to take a look at the back of the camera to make sure we've got exactly what we want. This other position we're working with was so nice because the backlight was so strong that I wanted to use that as a natural hair light. Also, I added an extra light to the side to help separate again. It kind of gives the image a little more dimension when you use backlight like this. And so this was really a nice spot because I was able to adjust the background as I needed just by adjusting the speed of the camera. So here you see a nice little dramatic look. You see some backlight from the back of that coming at him. Just by adjusting the speed of the camera, I was able to lighten that background to my taste. So this way it gave us some options. Also, by utilizing the background light, it gives them a real nice dimension as well. This was a really nice image because I moved the main light over to the side, and the extra shadow detail really gives us more dramatics. Him turning into the camera, that separation of light from the back to the side really gave us a whole nother look altogether. Outside was pretty cool. We enjoyed this. I had this vision of taking his drone and flying it really close to him with all of his equipment around him and showing the venue, the background. But of course, flying a drone next to someone's face is not exactly a comfortable position to be in. So we first started with the first few images to get a nice base. This worked out really well. Pose, just kind of casual pose, and I thought that drone should fit just right in that right spot. So then we went ahead and got the drone up in the air to see. I didn't really put it that close to him as I wanted. It was kind of windy, so it was kind of moving around on us a little bit. But with a little bit of Photoshop and a cut and paste, I was able to move that drone in closer to make it look as if it was really right next to his head. We did some other poses as well, and we had a chance to go ahead and change positions. I love this shot. It's kind of dramatic, sort of puts him in a working mode of working and looking for that next image. Then we just used some casual poses. The natural light around him was just perfect. And then putting myself, trying to change my angle. It's always nice to go after a different angle. Sitting down, kind of getting that back shot. Great shot of the back of my head. And of course, a couple of geeks. We got to look at the image and make sure we got what we need. Philip was so good to work with. I really enjoyed the session. A big thank you to Philip Benz for taking his time to talk today. Really enjoyed it. Also, Rock Springs, the premier location east of North Carolina for your next event. Thank you, Rock Springs, for giving us the location and the time so we can get together and talk. More information about Philip Benz, go to philipbenz.com. And don't forget, some of the best things happen right behind the camera.